Good evening, friends. Study with Apala Engineering and Journal Geology Parvin Singh book. So, in chapter 6, Structural Feature of Rock, parts B, Folds and Foldings. Introductions. Folds may be defined as undulations or bends or curvatures developed in the rocks of the crust as a result of stresses to which these rocks have been subjected from time to time in the past history of the earth. The folds may develop in any type of rocks and may be of any shapes and geometry ranging from simple arched bends or downwards curvatures to completely overturned flexures. The ultimate shape and extent of a folds depends upon number of factors like the nature, magnitude, and the direction of the durations for which these forces act upon the rocks, and also the nature of the rocks being affected. The process of development of folds in the rock is called folding. It is duration for which these forces act upon the rocks, and also the nature of the rocks being affected. The process of development of fold in the rocks is called foldings. It is a very slow geological process and indicates an effort of those rocks in a particular environment to adjust themselves to the deformations experienced by the rock compared to the brittle deformations where the rock actually get broken and displaced when stressed. Parts of folds. A number of terms are used to describe the morphology or shape of a fold. Some of the most common terms are explained below. Limbs. These are the sides flank of a fold. An individual's folds will have a minimum of two limbs, but when the folds occur in group, as they very often do, a middle limb will be common to two adjacent folds in figure. Hinge, axial surface, and axial planes. In a folded layers, a point can be found where curvature is maximum and on one limb ends and the other limbs start from that point. This is the hinge point. When rocks occur in a sequence and these all hinge points are joined together, they make a lines called the hinge lines. Whence the hinge line is traced throughout the depth of a fold sequence. Example, a group of rocks living one above another and having suffered the folding together, a surface is obtained which may be planar or non-planar. It is referred to as axial surface. If it is non-planar, examples is irregular and has axial planes. If it is of a planar natures. In other words, an axial plane is that imaginary plane that passes through all the point of maximum curvature in a folded sequence. It may be vertical, inclined, or horizontal in nature. A fold is sometimes called a planar fold if the axial surface is planar in nature, otherwise it is non-planar fold. Trace of axial planes, common limb, crest, plunge, axis of fold that make limb, trough, parts of fold. Figure. So this figure indicate fold terminology: hinge, axial surface, trace of axial plane. Axis of a fold. It is simply defined as a line drawn parallel to the hinge lines of a fold. A more precise definition of an axis of a fold would be the lines representing the interactions of the axial planes of a fold with any bed of the folds. When a folded sequence is made up of a number of layers, it will have a number of intersections with the axial planes, or in other words, equals number of axes. But as all these axes are essentially parallel, one of them will be taken to represent the general strand and hence described as axials of the fold. Like the axial planes, the axis of the fold may be horizontal, inclined, or vertical. Plunge of a fold. The axis of a fold as defined above may be horizontal inclines or even vertical in its geometrical position with respect to other part of a fold. The angle of inclination of the fold's axis with the horizontal as measured in a vertical plane is termed the plunge of the fold. In other words, axis is the lines and the plunge is the angles which these lines make with the horizontal planes. A fold having a horizontal axis will obviously have a zero plunge. The plunge is measured just like a dip of a bedding planes both in terms of directions of plunge and a degree of plunge. Crest and trough. Most folds are variations of two journals forms up arched and down arched bands. The lines running through the highest point in an arched folds defined in crest, a corresponding lines running through the lowest point in a down arched fold make its trough. The crest and trough may or may not coincide with the axis of the fold. Thank you.